So the latest is that we're getting word that Senate Republicans have emerged from a closed-door meeting. And when they emerged from that meeting, they sounded optimistic about a potential deal to address the government funding fight. The deal may involve passing 5 appropriations bills out of the 6th, and then a short-term funding patch for DHS so that the government can stay open while the negotiations over DHS and the way that it does its duties, those talks could continue. So with that, let's bring in House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Leader Jeffries, thank you very much for joining us today. How does that potential deal sound to you?
Well, we want to avoid a government shutdown, but it's necessary to ensure that the Department of Homeland Security dramatically changes the way in which it has been conducting itself. Taxpayer dollars should be used to address the affordability crisis here in the United States of America, which is very real. It's not a hoax. It's ongoing, by the way. Taxpayer dollars should not be used to brutalize or kill American citizens or to violently target law-abiding immigrant families. So there are a variety of reforms that need to be put into place that the American people are demanding. Your own poll has shown that everyday Americans have concluded that ICE has gone too far and that behavior needs to be reined in.
So one of the issues here is that ICE's funding is already on the books through the big, beautiful bill. I know you have another name for it, but that's already on the books through 2029. So if a shutdown happens, which is sounding more and more likely because the House isn't in session until Monday or Tuesday, I think at the earliest, so why would you risk potentially allowing FEMA and TSA and the Coast Guard to lose funding over this?
Well, thank you for bringing up the one big ugly bill, because this actually highlights the problems that my Republican colleagues have actually been focused on the wrong issues. In the one big ugly bill, they enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, literally ripping health care away from about 14 million Americans. Hospitals, nursing homes, community-based health clinics are closing as a result of what they have done. In that same bill, they cut nutritional assistance to hungry children, families, veterans, and seniors by $186 billion, the largest cut to food assistance in the history of the country. And in that very same bill, you're right, they gave the Department of Homeland Security an additional $191 billion and gave ICE $75 billion. They're using that money to unleash mass agents on American communities, on law-abiding immigrant families, and in some instances kill the American people.
It passed.
That's right.
So now the issue before you is, are you going to encourage the House to sign on to this deal, which looks like it's coming together, to keep the government open, to pass the 5 bills, to allow a CR for Department of Homeland Security? Are you going to encourage your members to be on board with that? Are you and Senator Schumer on the same page here today?
Well, we have to evaluate what emerges from the Senate, and we'll do that on the merits. We have said, and we're in complete lockstep with Senator Schumer, Leader Schumer, and our colleagues in the Senate, that we need to pass the 5 bipartisan bills that strongly emerge with support from Democrats and Republicans originally out of the House of Representatives.
Yeah,
and
but they were also
will be
okay with the 6th bill.
Of getting those over the finish.
We should remind people that these 6 bills were signed as part of the hangover from the last shutdown, and they were all agreed to before what happened in Minneapolis, which was very tragic. But Minneapolis is a unique situation. You're not seeing what we're seeing in Minneapolis in other places in the country. So why hold up potentially this funding on a bill that everyone agreed to, both sides agreed to in the first round?
Well, let me address the statement that you just made, because that's inaccurate. The Homeland Security funding bill was before the House prior to the cold-blooded killing of Alex Pretty, and the overwhelming majority of House Democrats voted against it, and we were very clear why we were voting against it, because we believe that there should be a prohibition on ICE deporting or detaining American citizens. We believe that ICE should conduct itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country.
Well,
we believe that ICE shouldn't run around with masks. We believe they should have body cameras.
Fine, but let me ask you a question.
We believe that judicial We believe that judicial warrants should be available before ICE is storming
Let me ask you a
home
question, if I
or
may.
ripping people out of their cars. These are pretty basic
They are, but these are policy issues. These are not funding appropriations issues. So because of that, it feels a little bit like the last shutdown when it became about healthcare policy and kind of holding that hostage. Is that the way this is going again? Sort of treating this as if it's, policy, how the agency runs, which is really a different category than the appropriations bill. And I would mention again, this ICE funding, whether I know you don't like it, but it's a done deal till 2029.
Donald Trump and Republicans shut the government down for 43 days in the fall. Democrats were very clear. We'll find a bipartisan path forward. We just were not going to support continuing efforts to gut the health care of the American people. And right now, our position is pretty clear. It's shared by the American people that ICE should conduct itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country and not brutalize everyday Americans abusing taxpayer dollars. We'll consider any bill that comes out of the Senate on its merits. And we'll see what happens.
Okay, I mean, you said
occurs.
earlier that you would, you agree, you and Schumer are on the same page, Senator Schumer on the same page. Here's Tom Homan, who is now overseeing the operations in Minneapolis. Let's watch. Minnesota.
I said in March, if the rhetoric didn't stop, there's going to be bloodshed. And there has been. But if people out there don't like what ICE is doing, if you want certain laws reformed, then take it up with Congress. Again, ICE is making this up. They're enforcing laws enacted by Congress and signed by the president. The same laws have been on the books for the last 6 presidents I worked for.
Your response to that, Leader Jeffries?
Yeah, it appears that members of the Trump administration don't think that the First Amendment applies, the freedom of assembly, the freedom to petition your government to change policies that you don't believe are in the best interest of the American people. They apparently don't believe that the Second Amendment applies, as has been demonstrated forcefully by the NRA. Clearly, they don't believe that the Fourth Amendment applies, the prohibition against unreasonable searches and seizures. The Trump administration has said that ICE doesn't apply, or the Fourth Amendment doesn't apply to behavior that DHS conducts itself. All we're saying is
these are
that
all
the
things
Department
that
of Homeland Security should be reined in a manner consistent with American values.
So these are things that they would push back on point by point, and I'll allow them to do that. We're going to talk to Senator Graham in just a moment. But I have one more question for you. In New York, your home state, the other night, there was a protest in a hotel in Manhattan. And the New York Police Department went in and they said because I want to point out that the Trump administration, they're saying you cannot put yourself in between a law enforcement operation. You can certainly protest, but you can't put yourself in between a law enforcement operation. So there were 65 New Yorkers arrested by the New York City Police Department. And Mayor Mamdani did not protest this at all. Do you support that action by the New York City Police? And why didn't we see that in Minnesota? Wouldn't that have been a good idea?
Well, I'm unfamiliar with that particular incident. I'm happy to look into it and come back on your show and comment on it. But what I will say is that the American people, hundreds of millions of folks, saw a cold-blooded killing of Alex Pretty. He was called by the Trump administration a would-be assassin and a domestic terrorist. No, that was a malignant lie. We know he was an I.C.E.
The president has already sent in Tom Homan to remedy the things that you're talking about.
Veteran. I hope so, but it remains to be seen.
All right. Leader Jeffries, hey, I'm surprised that you haven't heard about that arrest of 65 people in New York. You represent the 8th District in New York. You hadn't heard that 65 protesters were arrested in New York City?
Are you surprised that I'm here in Washington working to avert a government shutdown and make sure that ICE actually conducts itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country?
Let me ask you, do you think this is going to be resolved in the next 24 hours or so, this shutdown issue?
That's certainly my hope.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.